and welcome to my 15th, I think it's the 15th episode of my primarily knitting podcast. My name on Instagram is Orchid's Heart, and I am a maker based in Birmingham with my partner. I'm not from Birmingham, but we've been living here for quite a few years now, and I suspect this is where we're going to be from here on out. I'm in my home office today. Like most people, due to COVID, I have been predominantly working from home, although we do go into the office a bit now. My job is actually quite hands-on, so working from home can be a bit difficult sometimes. So yes, welcome. I have quite a lot to share today. I think it's been about 4 weeks since I last posted an episode, which was quite an autumnal cosy one. And kind of looking at what I had to share, I decided I was going to split it into 2 videos. So even though it's been 4 weeks since I did my last one, it might be that I do another one quite soon. So I've kind of decided to split things in terms of what I feel is a little bit more autumnal, and I'm saving my more wintry sort of Christmas stuff for the next episode. And when I say Christmas stuff, I mean like gift knits, and I've kind of got a few projects I want to make for myself over December when I finished gift knitting, and like into probably the new year as well. So yes, so I might save a few things for that. I've just come back from spending a weekend in London, in which I visited Loop Knitting, which I haven't been to for years. So I'm going to chat a bit about that towards the end. So I'm going to share with you a couple of finished objects, some whips, one that you've not seen for quite a while, which I've picked up again, and a yarn swap I did with somebody in France, which is really exciting. And that does kind of lead into a little bit of acquisitions, which I know people don't really tend to like. So after I've talked about the yarn swap and before I really go into the acquisitions, I'll probably slot in some footage or pictures of Loop, the fabulous yarn shop in London. And then if you don't want to see what I picked up whilst I was there, you can just tune out, or you can tune out before the Loop bit. That's totally fine. But it's not masses. You know, I was quite good, and part of that is because I did make another purchase online like before I went, and I knew that was coming, and so I didn't want to overwhelm myself too much, and that hasn't arrived yet. So maybe I will share that in the next episode, but being that it's quite a lot of basics, maybe I won't. We'll see. So anyway, thank you for coming and being with me today. And let's just get started. Perhaps I should start with what I'm wearing. Oh, sorry, I've just kicked the tripod. And I wanted to mention this especially because when I first made it, I was a little bit uncertain about it. And for those of you who've been watching my episodes for a while, you'll know that this yarn actually rather went through it a bit. So I'm reluctant to take my scarf off because it's actually 13 degrees in here. It's really, really cold. So the house still seems to be catching up from not having any heating on over the weekend whilst we were away, and it seems to be taking quite a long time to warm through. So this is the Nurtured pullover or jumper by Andrea Mowry. I'm going to see if I can stand up so you can see it. It's cropped. It's got raglan decreases because you do it from the bottom up, and I've made mine in a DK weight yarn from Woolly Mammoth Fibre Co in the colourway, I think it was called Winter's Hymn, which I bought last winter, and I knit I think through the summer this year. It's got quite long sleeves, a bit longer than I intended, but actually sometimes it's quite cosy. The sleeves are quite skinny, which I didn't really like to start with, but they have eased up a bit. But because of the nature of the pattern, which is achieved by doing lots of slip stitches, it is really cosy and thick. And it has bubbled a little bit, but I wear this tons, so I think actually it's done really well and it's worn really well, and it's really lovely to wear. Like Emma's yarns are all very natural and obviously nylon free and naturally dyed. And there's like no itch at all. It's just really, really cozy. The colour, when I say Winter's Hymn, you might not be able to see it on screen. It's quite subtle, but it's got little flecks and very delicate suggestions of colour throughout. You know, it's quite pale, it's hard to see, but I think it's really, really beautiful. But I'm looking at it now and I do think it might have faded actually quite considerably, because actually the colours, the flecks were a lot more intense before. So yeah, maybe it is just going to end up being a cream jumper, which is kind of a shame because it was really beautiful, but I mean, it still is beautiful. It's just not quite so obvious as it was. I might try and compare it to what I have left of the skein in my drawer and see if it has really sort of lost some of its colour. I think it probably has. But on that note, this is also Woolly Mammoth Fibre Company yarn. This is my Waiting for Rain shawl, which was knit in 4-ply, Gotland combined with something. I always forget what the second one is. And I really, really love it. I almost exclusively wear it like this, and you can see a bit of the lace there poking out. And this definitely has faded. It was a lot darker before. Doesn't overly bother me. Natural dyes will fade. They're not as strong or as intense as like a acid dye would be. But some natural dyes will hold longer and stronger than others. Yeah, so this has faded, but still really beautiful colour. But sorry, going back to this, the reason why when I first made it I was unsure. So first of all, I knit the Fisherman Woman sweater by, I've forgotten her name. Anyway, the jumper pattern's called Fisherman's Woman sweater. I think Vanessa Palisa. I think that's it. And I got about 3/4 of the way through. Like, I'd nearly finished one sleeve, pretty much finished the body. Decided I didn't like the jumper in this yarn. It's a really beautiful pattern, but this yarn combined with that pattern, it felt a little bit too retro for me. I didn't really like it. And so, you know, I actually knit part of that jumper 3 times because I kept getting it wrong. I talk about that a lot in the previous episode. So eventually I ripped it out and I knit this, which when I first put it on, I don't know if you can see, there is a bit of weirdness here. And I did feel that it had pulled a bit on the shoulder. But being honest, now wearing it, I mean, looking at it now, I can see that. I don't notice it when I'm wearing it day to day, when I'm wearing it around. No one's ever said anything about that bit. I'm going to, you know, you are going to be a perfectionist when you make things yourself. You are going to be hard on yourself and see all the little problems. But wearing it, I don't notice at all. So sometimes I wear it every day. The only thing is, because it's so pale, I do sort of stress about getting a stain on it. So when I went to London this weekend, I did take this with me, but when we went out in the evening, because we were going to a sort of celebration for some friends, I did actually swap jumpers for that in the evening, because I didn't want to like risk spilling something on it. And also, I don't really trust myself if I've been drinking quite a lot or I'm around people that are drinking quite a lot. I didn't want to get upset if someone spilled something on it, because I would be very upset and that's not really fair. So yeah, I didn't wear it on the evening out. And also we had tacos, which were really messy. That would have been a disaster. So yes. But I love my Waiting for Rain shawl. I wear this almost every day as well. It's just really, it's the right amount of coziness and rusticness, and it is actually quite soft by my standards of soft. Like, I love squishing it. And trying to think if this was something that I made before I started podcasting. It might be, because I bought the yarn around this time last year, or maybe a bit closer to Christmas, as like a early birthday treat to myself. And I thought it was going to be, from the picture, a lot more of a rusty pinky orange. And when it arrived, it was very definitely like a dirty pink, and I didn't like it. However, the colour really grew on me. Like, I did consider trying to over dye it with more of an orangey tinge, but the more I looked at it in the skein, the more I realised actually this would go really well with my wardrobe. I think I assume, because of the colour of my skin, that colours like this won't suit me, that it would be too much pink. But actually I find myself reaching for it all the time, and I would love to make another Waiting for Rain shawl at some point, and I think I've decided out of what yarn, but it's quite expensive yarn, so not soon. Maybe next year, maybe next autumn. But yeah, so that's what I'm wearing. Oh, and the skirt, and you would have seen this a bit more when I was standing up. I'll stand up again. is a skirt I made. These buttons are a little bit too far apart. Really, they should be like here. I've been meaning to move them for actually about 2 years and I haven't, so I will do sometime. Anyway, this is Merchant & Mills linen. Trying to remember the name of the colourway. Ooh. Might also be Winter's Hymn actually. That could be a bit of a strange coincidence. These might have the same name. Or I'm remembering wrong, I don't know. And it's got contrast pockets, which is another Merchant & Mills fabric. This was a scrap from a fluff. This is a scrap from a metamorphic dress I made, which I no longer have actually. I sold it on because I didn't wear it. And this is the Totori Cross in Mulberry. And these are just some vintage mother of pearl buttons. So this is just the bottom half of the hinterland dress. So it's the skirt section. And I've simply folded the top over and made an elasticated waistband. It's quite stretchy. And then on the inside, there are some buttons. And on the outside, there's some pretty buttons. And then I just made some straps. And they are going to be twisted on the back because they're always twisted on the back. I got dressed after my partner left for work, so I couldn't ask him to sort them out. And being that I'm going to be on Zoom all day, it doesn't really bother me. But I just made 2 long strips. You could even use the, I guess the pattern that's used for the ties in the hinterland dress and just make sure they're long enough. Maybe cut them double the length. Like I think it's, you cut it once, but you could cut it on the fold. So that it's double the length, and use that to make straps and then put buttonholes on. When I initially put my buttonholes on, the straps were too long, so I've actually ended up adding extra buttonholes to make it shorter and shorter so that they don't keep falling off. But I would like to move the buttons on the front so that they are closer together because I think that would look a bit nicer. I have actually made 2 of these skirts. I have one in grey linen as well, not Merchant & Mills linen. It was like a £11 a metre grey linen. It actually has bleach stains in it, but because the pockets are like a pretty vintage green floral cotton, I'm reluctant to dump the whole thing into a grey dye bath because it probably ruined the pockets, which I know are concealed and nobody can see them, so it's not really a big deal. But I just kind of have it as I want to look like I want to have my style, but I don't mind if I get a bit scruffy kind of skirt. With the job I have, it's actually quite helpful to have clothes that I don't mind if I get more bleach on or paint or something. So yeah, or I wear it when I'm doing housework or going for a muddy walk or something. It's quite nice to have something you're not precious about but still feel you in. So yeah, anyway, enough about what I'm wearing. Let's go into finished objects. So my first finished object is these. Oh my god, I love them. So they're not on blockers because I have already been wearing them, but not actually that much. I wanted to wear them to London. I had this image of looking really lovely when I went to Loop, wearing all my hand knits and looking great, but the reality was Saturday morning, it started snowing here. It was incredibly cold, and I think there was a storm, was it Storm Arwen, planned to hit England. And the nature of our visit was that we would be carrying around our stuff with us all day, checking into the hotel at like 3-4 o'clock and then going out after that. So I couldn't take lots of things with me. I pretty much had to wear what I was planning to wear for the weekend. And I knew I was going to be outside a lot. So the idea of wearing shoes and socks to show these off, my feet would have been too cold. I had to wear really thick, long, woolly socks and boots because even though I love these, I haven't made the leg long enough that this will stick out above my boots, which was a little bit silly because they are quite autumnal and I can't wear them with my boots because with my boots you only see maybe half the ribbing, like it's nothing, so that would be a waste. So they look really, really good with my red buckle shoes, and there's a photo on Instagram that I posted if you want to see. It looked excellent with those, but yeah, the time for wearing those this year has passed. Maybe at work it's fine because I cycle to work, so like my feet aren't outside for very long, so I could wear them at work, but in the house, or even with my slippers actually you can't see them that well. Yeah, so that was a bit of a shame. But this was my autumnal socks. This is the Magic Toadstool pattern by Stone Knits. Now hers is a little bit different. It doesn't have this contrast foot. I'll explain that in a second. And the heel I think might be in the same colour as the sock. But so what I've done, sorry, my hair is over everything, gross. With the mushrooms, she gives you the option of either doing 3-stranded colour work or doing them afterwards in duplicate stitch. So as you can tell, mine are all a little bit different. So I opted to do duplicate stitch because the idea of doing 3-stranded colour work on a sock filled me with like, no, just not doing it. It seemed like too much stress. So on duplicate stitch, I did that for my boyfriend's socks. That wasn't a new skill to me, so that was quite, you know, I felt kind of fine about that. So yeah, that was easy. And so with the socks, she doesn't suggest going up a needle size. She suggests, well, she has some increases here and decreases here. So the colourwork portion of the sock is actually a bit wider, quite considerably, I think by 8 stitches. So, you know, that's quite a bit. And I don't know if you can see, but there's like some colourwork here and here, which is the same colour as this, but against the grey. It doesn't really stand out that well, it's quite subtle, but in real life I quite like the way it looks. And the heel I've done in that yarn as well. But, so this yarn is the Lang Jowell sock yarn, and I've got some more I'm going to show you a bit later in my acquisition section. And the really nice thing about this yarn is it comes with a mini spool of reinforcement thread inside, and so each skein is about 50 grams, and I don't know how much is on the reinforcement spool. It's like 5 grams, so I don't know like what meterage that is. And I've had a few skeins of this yarn because I've used them for some other socks. I bought the colour Baker's Twine, which is a bit of a marl, Ochre, which is this one, Taupe, which is this one, and a charcoal one. So I had reinforcement threads from all of those, but I had already used the Ochre reinforcement thread on my purpley Baker's Twine socks because the heels and toes on those ones I'd made with the Ochre. And so I had the reinforcement thread in this colour left. And so that's why the heel is a bit marled, because it's the holding the reinforcement thread in the taupe with the ochre yarn, and it's giving it that effect. And it's actually the same on the toe as well. So it does make it a bit harder because like you're increasing the density of your knitting in those areas. However, my other socks I made with those yarns, they really seem quite hard wearing and really comfortable, and I don't notice the difference in thickness on my foot. And they just feel really robust, so I was really keen to make sure that I used it on those. And I am actually thinking like maybe there's somewhere you can buy reinforcement thread in bigger quantities that you could use on all of your socks rather than just when using this yarn. That could be quite cool. So that's something I'd like to look into. So if anybody knows, because I don't even really know what the reinforcement thread is made from, I'm assuming it's the same makeup as the Lang Jowell, that just makes it a bit thicker. I'm not really sure. But and then the red is just a merino sock yarn. No, not a sock yarn, just a merino yarn. And the white is a sock yarn, and both of those are by Katjia, which is like quite a mass-produced yarn. And that's because when I wanted to do these, when I got it into my head that I was going to start them, I wanted to start them in the next 2 days. And the yarns I had in the red and white colours, the red was too pink because I'd ordered it online and didn't really like the shade. So, and then the white I had was too close to the taupe and it wouldn't have stood out. So I went to my local yarn shop, which hasn't got the greatest amount of range, and they didn't, all their sock yarns in the red were too pink or too bright and too tacky for me. Like, I mean, this looks quite bright. This isn't really, it is a bit blown out, but it's not really my red. In fact, the clock looks quite bright. I would say the colours in here at the moment aren't quite, like this is definitely much darker in real life, but the reds they had in the yarn look like that looks right now. And it's not really me. Like I much prefer like a rustier, darker red. So yeah, I just thought, well, it's up here, it's not on the foot or anywhere that's going to wear away, and Merino should be okay. And it was a small ball, it was like 50 grams, so maybe less than. But yeah, and so the reason why half the foot is yellow is because I ran out of yarn. So the skeins are only 50 grams, so that's not really enough to do like a longer leg. And bear in mind, I already used some on my boyfriend's socks. I didn't have enough left. And so I realised I was hoping I'd be able to get a bit further, but I couldn't. And so I had to switch to another colour, so I just decided to use the rest of the ochre up, which is kind of a shame because I really like it and I wanted to use it as a feature on another pair of socks. But that's fine, I've still got a tiny bit left, maybe enough to do a cuff on another pair or some colour work. And just to ease the transition so it's not a line, I did, so she has you do another like pattern down here, which is a repeat of the band that's here and here, and she just before the toe. And so I did that here, and I used it to transition from one colour into the other, which you can't really see on the screen, but it stops it having like a really solid line from one colour to the next. And the other thing I quite like about these is that that transition is about halfway across the gap in my red buckle shoes. Like there's a little window on the foot and it's about halfway across, and so it looks like it's completely on purpose. So I was vaguely aware that was happening when I was doing it, but it worked out quite well. So yes, absolutely love them, and I will be wearing them a lot, just maybe not outside. So my other finished object, which I haven't shared on here yet because I think I cast it on after I filmed the last episode, and I've basically done it in the last month. So this is what I've been working on the most, and it's going to be a bit tricky to show you, I think. So this is my Birds of a Feather shawl by Andrea Mowry. Well, it is supposed to be anyway. I'll talk about that in a second. I made quite a few changes. So you can see there's some lace, but it's mostly garter and it's like an asymmetrical shape. So it has got a bit of a weird bit here where I did try to block that into a straighter line, but it didn't really happen. But the yarn is Viola Merino and Twig by Woollenflower, and that is a linen silk alpaca blend, which has been dyed with pomegranate skins. And the viola is not naturally dyed. And this is the most gorgeous, soft, squishy, I just want to cuddle up to it. Like I could, you know, I could sleep with this. It's fabulous. I absolutely love it. I really like the shape of the shawl. Like it's when Andrea Mowry puts it on, it looks really beautiful. I am kind of struggling to learn how to wear it because I predominantly wear this one just like a giant cowl, and I can definitely do that with this, and I probably will. But it just seems a bit of a shame not to be showing that off. And it is quite shit. I have a feeling that this might be more of a spring-summer item, and it might go with my sort of warmer clothes a bit better. Sorry, cooler clothes. Trying to get it keeps the colours are not quite as rich as they should be. I'm wondering if I move and the light will change. Maybe more like that, those colours. I mean, it does go with this jumper, but yeah, so I'm really, really happy with that. But so the meterage you need for the shawl is quite a lot. My twig yarn is a light fingering. Also, sorry, first of all, the pattern I think is a light fingering and a mohair. And you do the lace and the mohair, I think. And then you have some garter, or it's the other way around. But anyway, I had a 400 metre skein of fingering weight Viola yarn and a 600 metre skein of light fingering twig, which is the yellow one. And I wanted to use those. So because I had significantly less of the Viola than I needed for the pattern, I did sort of fudge around the order of colours a little bit. I knew I wanted to, I'm not really sure why, but I knew I wanted to start with the Viola. I think because it's thicker, it just kind of made sense to me that it should start and end with the Viola, and for the lighter twig to be like sandwiched in between. And so in the lace panel here, so this is the first lace panel, I misread the pattern and I was yarning over too much, and I ended up with 30 extra stitches than I was meant to have. And at the time I really couldn't work out how. I was like, how do you end up with 30 extra stitches? That's insane. It is insane. And so my triangle gets wider much quicker than the pattern, and that's probably why there's a slightly strange shape to that point at the bottom there. It also means I actually omitted one of the lace rounds on this bit here. Oh no, hold on, no, it was down here. I'll say actually no, that hasn't contributed to the weird shape because it's down here. So it's this bit here, right before this one. So in here I had 30 extra stitches. So this yellow gets wider much quicker than it was meant to. The other thing is the lace is meant to be a different colour to the panel before, but because I was trying to do more in the twig and less in the Viola, I did some of them like 2 panels next to each other in the same yarn. But yeah, so it kind of went a bit wrong, and so I thought about ripping the twig back, but I didn't, because I hadn't put a lifeline in before I did the lace, which is something I normally do, and so the prospect of ripping it out and not being able to catch all those stitches and possibly losing it all, you know, that's still a reasonable amount of knitting. I just wasn't going to do it. So I thought, well, I'll keep knitting, I'll do another 2 sections, and if it looks awful I will start again completely from the beginning. But it looked fine, so I kept going. Yeah, I mean, looks fine. And then by the time I got to this section, I worked out what I'd done wrong. The brackets, you know when it's like yarn over SSK 3 times or something, I had my brackets in my head in the wrong place. There's nothing wrong with the pattern at all, and I knew there wasn't because no one else had mentioned there was an issue. It was just me reading it wrong, so I was essentially doing a yarn over for every SSK, which I wasn't meant to do, and so that's how I ended up with way too many stitches. So I sussed it on that one, and so from there on out I did it correctly. So actually it might be this way around. So yeah. However, so the last section then, you have some stripes. So the stripes are going to be slightly different in the pattern to how they look here, because I realised I was running out of Viola, and so I weighed how much I had left. You stop decreasing on this section, so all of the rows are the same. So I weighed the yarn, I knit a row and then weighed it again to see how much a row of Viola took to, you know, how much it weighed to do that. And I worked out how many rows I had left to do with a bit for a bind off, because I wanted to end on the Viola. And so I realised I wouldn't have enough Viola left to do the stripes as she suggested. So again, I just mixed up which ones were twig and which ones were Viola. And it was fine. I absolutely love it. I will 100% knit this pattern again, maybe actually with mohair. Yeah, it's lovely. Really recommend, and it's actually easy if you read the pattern properly. Generally things are when you read the pattern properly. And I do have another FO, but I've decided that I'm going to save that for my next episode because it's a gift. So I'll save that one as well actually, because that's a sewing project but it's also a gift. So let's move on to whips. So I'm going to very briefly show this one, but it's not that exciting to see. My whips are my minimalist cable cardigan, which I have now blocked and finished all of the panels. So when I say all of them, I mean this is the back. There's a little bit of shaping at the top. And then I have 2 cable fronts. The reason why there's lots of yarn, because there's quite a few lifelines in there, and I left some tails so that I could seam them together. So the next thing I need to do is to seam the shoulders, seam the sides, and then either pick up to do a button band or pick up to do the sleeves. I'm a bit nervous about doing both because my track record of picking things up is not that great, but I'm determined to do this one properly. So this is for the mini cable cowl. It's the minimalist cable cardigan by Karina Spencer, and it's in the yarn Law by the Fibre Company in the colour Ambitious, maybe? Is that the name of it? I can't remember, that's really bad. But I talked about it a lot before, and I did a whole episode about it a few weeks ago. So, I mean, the fabric is really lovely, but it is a little bit transparent. This is blocked, so it's not going to bloom any more than it has. But it feels really, really nice. Like, it's got quite a nice quality to it. So I'm really excited to finish it because it will go with a lot of my clothes. But I'm determined not to finish it early and hoping that I can make it last until January, end of January, which is when the cowl runs to. So yeah, that's that. And then my next whip, oh, I'm getting all tangled up, is a gift knit, but it's not finished. I'm just going to share it with you very quickly. So a yarn I've always wanted to try is by West Yorkshire Spinners, is the Jacobs. And I wanted to knit, so you saw in my previous episode that I knit a hat for myself in Pluto Lopi and another one in scrap yarn for my boyfriend's mother. And so I really wanted to try the Jacobs by West Yorkshire Spinners and make a hat for my partner's dad. I've never made him anything because I didn't really have the skills to make him anything previously. At least I didn't really feel like I had the confidence to do that. Something that he'd actually want anyway, like scarves and stuff, I don't think are really his cup of tea. So I was talking with a knitting friend about making a hat from Jacobs for him for Christmas, and she said it's a bit itchy and rough and rustic and maybe that's not the best idea, and she recommended the BFL instead. So I bought some West Yorkshire Spinners BFL, and I am knitting the Brume Hat by Bmandarines, Melody Hoffman, in it. Now that was the same pattern that I knit my other two hats in, and it is a pattern for unspun yarn, but being that I knit one of mine in a spun yarn, I thought it'd be fine, and I'm holding it double. So it is a little bit of an experiment, but I've tried it on and it fits on my head fine, and there's quite a lot of stretch to it because it's a whole ribbed hat, so I think it'll be okay. I might run out of yarn and I might need to buy another skein, but I'm just going to wait and see. And here's one of my club stitch markers from Woollen Wytch, some mushrooms. I did a 3-month subscription to her stitch marker like box. She does like yarn subscription, stitch marker subscriptions, like either or combined, and I did just like a stitch marker one for 3 months as a bit of a treat, which I quite enjoyed, to be fair. It's probably not something I'm going to do again, being that I've started making a lot of my own stitch markers, but the ones I got I really liked. I had like a beetle, a flower and a mushroom one, so you know, quite appropriate for the things I like to make. So yeah, so hopefully I'll finish that this week, because it's a gift and it's my last gift I'm going to make, which means that I can then crack on with my other projects. So my last whip is one that has been MIA for a little while. Is that an appropriate use of that word? Probably not. And I haven't touched it for like a really long time. But after I finished my shawl the other day, I picked it up and I got stuck in, and I've made quite a bit of progress. So it's in my handmade project bag and my taking it to the pub project bag, which I also talked about previously. And here we go. So I think last time I showed this off, I'd only just finished the colour work, and now I've split for sleeves and I've done like an inch or so beyond that. So yes, I have mixed feelings about this. I really love the pattern. The pattern is gorgeous. Oh, sorry, the light keeps blowing out a bit. That's quite an accurate representation of colour. So I'm using a mystery cone that I bought second hand, which I dyed with henna, and 2 Woolly Mammoth Fibre Co mini skeins, which were dyed with indigo to do the beetles. So this is the Beetle Magic jumper by Katie Greenbean. I bought her lovely printed pattern version a few months ago, but I'm going to steek mine. So I'm going to cut mine up the middle and I'm going to make mine a cardigan. Now the reason why I have mixed feelings about this is because I did a super stretchy cast on and sometimes the neck looks a bit warped, but when I tried on it was okay. I'm worried that when I cut it up the middle the neck might warp more. Just doesn't really have as much structure as it could, and I was worried about it going over my head. Obviously in hindsight, it being a cardigan, I don't need to worry about that, so that was a bit daft. So I don't know how well that's going to sit. The other thing is, I don't know if you can see, but the colour work is quite crumpled. The tension is not that great. And when I pull it out, you can tell it's resisting, so I'm not sure how well it's going to block out. So the other thing is, the first few rows, right until before the colour work, I did with the recommended needle size, and it's really tight and it was hurting my hands. I went up a needle size for the colour work and that felt so much better, and so I did not go back down. And so there is a bit of a difference in tension in that respect as well. So I don't know if it's just going to look really messy. And so part of me is like, well, it was only a cone that I dyed and thrifted, it's not a big deal. However, it is using Woolly Mammoth Fibre Co mini skein. But you know, is life too short to get upset about a mini skein? Like in the grand scheme of things, even if it's 2, it's not really the end of the world. Yeah, I don't know. But I'm going to finish it, I think, and I'm just going to go ahead and steek it and see how it goes. And you know what, if it's not perfect, it's not perfect. It's a handmade item. I'm just going to try not to beat myself up about it and just sort of think, well, you know, it's a learning process and I think I will get some wear out of it. Just think it won't be like I mean, it was never going to be a let's go to a posh restaurant covered in beetles outfit. I just wanted it to be something kind of an extra warm layer that's not too thick, that I can wear over dresses and things, and just throw on and maybe wear at work. And to be honest, I'm just going to get people being like, oh, you made that, did you? And I'll be like, oh, yes I did, can you tell? Isn't it wonky? And that's fine, you know, that's totally okay. So yes, I think I'm going to make it hit like my natural waist, not too long, partly because it's 4-ply and it's taken forever to knit and I'm getting kind of bored of it already. But also because the yarn doesn't feel that great to work with. It's quite rough and coarse. And I think if I'm going to wear it over dresses, I probably don't want it too long. And if it's too long, I think it might add to the kind of scruffy homemade look, which I don't really want. At least if it's a bit shorter, maybe it'll look a bit neater. I don't know. So yeah. But I have some lovely wooden buttons that have little bugs on, lasered onto, which I will use. If it looks OTT, having beetles on beetles, then I'll find something else. But yes, so that's that whip. And the reason why there's quite a few lines is because I've been using quite a lot of lifelines. So if I need to rip back I can, but I'm being a bit lazy and I don't think I'm going to do any ripping back. And I don't know if you can see that, but I'm also using her beetle stitch markers to go with it. So yeah, there we go. I think that pattern might take a bit of a back seat through my like winter, December festive knitting plans, and I might pick it up again in the new year. But now, because it's like in the body, I don't think there's any waist shaping, and if there is, I'm probably not going to do it. So it is quite good for taking to the pub or Zoom meetings because it's just round and round and round and round and round. so it's fine, especially because of the steek stitches. You know, it just, there isn't that much to worry about. So yeah, I think that's it for the whips and FOs, and now I'm going to talk about the yarn swap I did. So a few months ago, a lovely follower on Instagram messaged me and asked me if I wanted to do a yarn swap, and I was a bit like unsure to start with whether I wanted to agree, because, and this is being totally transparent, I don't really like surprises. I did an advent last winter and I didn't like most of the colours that came in it, and you know, it was Woolly Mammoth Fibre Co and I love her work, I love her yarn. And really I should have known this, I'm really fussy about colour, really fussy. If I don't like it, I don't like it, and I can get quite picky. So the idea of someone else choosing colours for me stresses me out. Stresses me out having stuff in my life I don't want. I'm quite a difficult person in some ways to give a present to, because I hate having stuff I don't like, don't want, won't use. Buying presents for the sake of it, I really disagree with that. That's a whole other da-da. So when I receive presents I don't really want, it stresses me out because it feels wasteful. So, you know, like, it's a really nice thought and everything, but don't like contributing to, yeah, you understand what I'm trying to say. So it was a really lovely idea, she was a really lovely maker, and I was like, oh, okay, this could be really nice, but am I allowing things I don't want into my life? Is that a bit like, yeah. And then I decided I was stressing and overthinking it a bit too much, and if I just messaged her saying, yes, that's really nice, let's set up like some rules, outlines about what we would like to trade, then maybe that would make it like a bit easier. And actually I was watching the Craya Bear podcast earlier, and she did a yarn swap with somebody and they sent each other like briefs, and I thought that was a really nice idea, because yeah, it's a really nice thing to do but not that great, it doesn't really work out. So we sent each other like, I like da 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 da, and it was like about colours and textures. We didn't mention weight actually, which the Craya Bear, her and her exchange, she did. Actually in hindsight that would have been a good thing to do, but it worked out well in the end. And we were like, okay, we'll swap our favourite local yarns, and then the other like tea, snacks, whatever, and handmade items we want to trade. So I'm not going to show you everything in the box because it was quite a lot, but it was really lovely. I'm just going to show you the yarn. So I sent mine to her a few weeks ago, and I sent her, like, the main feature of the yarn I sent her was John Arbon Exmoor sock, because that was the most typically English thing I could think of that I thought was really nice to share, that like anybody would want to use. And I did check that she could knit socks. I looked on her page and she had plenty of socks on there, so I was like, yeah, okay, she is a sock knitter. And she sent me some really gorgeous rustic yarn, and I'm really over the moon, which were these. And they're so lovely. They are very rustic. If you don't like rustic yarn, probably would be awful. But I think they're lovely. They are, so she's from France, and this is a 90% merino and 10% Angora rabbit, both raised in France. So this is merino Angora. Yeah, and that's 100 grams. And it's a 4-ply because it's 200 grams for 50. It's 200 meters for 50 grams. I mean, I'm pretty sure this is 100 grams. It looks like it's 100 grams, but then it says 200 meters per 50 grams on here. Okay, so this is 50 or 100. I'm not sure. Probably should have weighed it. And they are a member of the European Textile Association and Workshop of Yarns of Europe. Yeah, so that one. And then I think this is the same base but darker, and this is, oh, actually this has the same 200 meters per 50 grams and this is clearly not 50 grams. So probably that's just what they put. So these are the same base in 2 different colours. So this is like a dark chocolatey brown, and then this is like a caramelly colour. It's probably coming up more. The colour you can see is not the colour it is. It's much more brown. I'd call this baby poop colour, which sounds really like negative, but I actually really like the colour. The wallpaper in my sewing room, which you've probably never seen actually, is like all the shades of baby poop. But I love it. So yeah, I really like this colour. And then this one is oh god, I don't know. These are words I don't know in French. In English, sorry. It's 80% something and 20% alpaca. I think that the 80% is the species of sheep, because it's 80% that, raised organically, and it tells you where. Yes, so not sure. And it's quite a vibrant orangey yellow, like a turmeric colour. So because I'm pretty sure these are all the same weight, I did consider doing a stripy cardigan or stripy something. If it was a cardigan, using this for like the neckband and maybe the cuffs if there was enough. But I don't know if that would look a bit like tacky or like a waste of the yarn. I don't know. Or some kind of shawl that uses 2 colours. I mean, I think there's 800 and something meters here, so that's quite a lot. I'm sure I could do something really lovely with it. So if anybody has, and the colours, they just suit, they go together well. So if anybody has any thoughts, do let me know. If not, I'll make some really gorgeous accessories. Oh, dropped one. Maybe something colour work with the little one and this one. Yeah, I don't know. Let me know what you think. Yeah, so they're really lovely, and even the labels are gorgeous. Like, I love the, yeah. So thank you. You know who you are. It was really lovely and I really enjoyed it. So merci beaucoup. Yes. So now I'm going to talk a little bit more about acquisitions. There's a little bit, it's pretty much all yarn related, but not all of it's actually yarn. So I'm going to put some footage here of Luke and my visit there, and then I'll show you what it was I bought whilst I was in London. London, Loop is absolutely gorgeous. I went a couple of years ago when I could crochet, but I couldn't really knit, and I bought a couple of things. I think I've been twice actually before, and the first time I bought some Jameson's Spindrift and I crocheted myself some fingerless gloves, which I still wear a lot. They've held up really well actually. And the second time I bought a skein of lichen and lace. A single ply merino in the colour Pressed Flowers, which my mum made me something with. I've talked about this before, it didn't really work out, so I'm possibly going to frog it and use it for something else. And so this is the first time I've been as a fairly confident knitter. So I was mega excited. And yes, so I didn't go wild. I set myself a budget and I stuck to it actually. I did really well. So So the first thing was, I mentioned that I had those 2 skeins of sock yarn that I bought online that I didn't like the colour of, and so I swapped those for these 2 colours. So this is the Lang Jowell, and I don't know if I can get the spool out without wrecking it really. I do find when they're in skeins like this, I quite often end up rewinding them because they get a bit floppy and hard to manage otherwise. So you can see there, in there, is that spool of reinforcement thread. And so I'm not sure what colour this is classed as. Is there a number on there? Possibly 2134, but it's like a dark denim-y teal kind of colour. And then I bought another one of the charcoal because I have 3/4 or almost an entire skein of this left from my partner socks. At least I hope it's the charcoal. I hope it's the same colour. I hope it is. It looks a bit different actually. Shit. Hopefully this is the same colour because I want to make some colourwork socks and they're going to be predominantly dark grey with a little bit of, it's going to have some moons on actually in the creamy yarn that I did the mushroom stalks in. So those 2. This, don't know what I'll use it for, but it's a lovely colour. I'm sure I'll use it for something. I did think about getting another one in the ochre, but I don't think they had any, so I didn't. So yeah, Lang Jowell, and these are about £5 I think when you buy them. So actually I think that's quite good because of the spool you get in there as well. So yeah. And then some of you will know that I've been obsessing about red lately. Contrary to belief seen here, I'm not really a red person. Because I dye my hair with henna, so it's a bit orange, and I'm quite a pink person, I stress that red will make me look more pink, more washed out, and like a tomato, and that it won't suit me. And I think I'm being very influenced by Knitting Nelly on Instagram, Young Folk Knits, which is a podcast I've just started watching, and Hello Stella, who's a yarn dyer in Canada, and they've all been doing like really pops of like vibrant red in their knitting, like hats and things, against like white wintry jumpers, and I really like the way it looks. I really wanted a red hat, and I kind of fell in love with the is it Le Gros Mohair by Biche Bouche? I'm sorry if that pronunciation is total crap. Which is a really thick mohair silk, I think, by I think it's a French company, but they might be not based in France. Can't remember. There's something like they're French and they're based over here, or they're based in France but they're not French. I'm not sure. Can't remember. And I got there and the yarn is absolutely gorgeous. The colour is absolutely gorgeous. But I don't know if because of all the clothes I was wearing, I didn't look very tidy. I didn't have that beautiful I'm wearing all my hand knit vibe that I was hoping to have because it was so blooming cold in London. I was just a bit of a scruffy mess, to be honest. And yeah, I don't know whether it was that or whether the colour wasn't right for me, but I felt like it washed me out. And the thing is, it's £17 for 50 grams, so it's quite a lot of money, and I thought I'd probably need 2 to do a hat. Don't know. Maybe I wouldn't, and so I didn't get it because it's quite a like consistent colour, and I really wanted to spend my money in loop on things that mattered about me choosing whilst I'm there. Like if you think about yarns that are hand dyed, they vary quite greatly, and online might not be the same as in real life. Like my lichen and lace skein I bought in Pressed Flowers, if you go and look up on their website, the skein I have looks nothing like the skein on the website, and I picked it out in person, not because I've been like swayed by something I've seen online, but because I'd seen it in real life and I really liked it. I think the colours on mine are a lot more subtle, not too dissimilar to how this was when it started before it faded. And so I bought, instead of that one, I bought this one, which is a lot darker then it's appearing. Trying to get it to maybe like that kind of colour. And it's like a two-tone one, so sorry it's really bright. So I was looking up on the internet last night, and so it's a marl. It's a fleece dyed yarn, so they dye the fleece and then spin it up, which is why it's marled. And it's by Brooklyn Tweed, and it's Loft. And so it was sourced in Johnson County, spun in Harrisville, and dyed in Philadelphia. And what kind of drew me to it in the end is like the Philadelphia connection. My father actually lives in Philadelphia. So yeah, I don't know, just sort of swayed me. And it's red, and it's a little bit less fussy than chunky mohair would be. So I still only have 50 grams. I have 275 yards. No idea what those are meters, but it's kind of similar. So yeah, I don't know, 250 meters maybe. And I think I will knit a hat from this. It was about £12, so it was a bit cheaper than the other one. Yeah, so I think I will knit a hat. I don't know, what do you think? Am I going to look like a tomato? Or am I going to look like Knitting Nelly? Not that I want to be Knitting Nelly, just I'm really inspired by her right now. So I think, as Knitting Nelly says, it does go really well with the white. And I think it'd make a really nice Christmassy knit. So this is going to be one of my festive over December, maybe January knits. So not to be a Christmas hat, but like a, you know, I want to have some like festive colours on the needles. So yeah. And then this one, this was my maybe decadent purchase. So it's a sock yarn by Life in the Long Grass, which I believe is Irish. So ethically sourced yarn, recycled paper and packaging, colours inspired by nature, hand dyed our studio in the Irish countryside. Yeah. So now, so it's like this kind of, it's got in the colour beach grass, and it's like a sagey green with other flecks of colour in. So it is like variegated, it is speckled, but very delicately so. Like I do really like the look of speckled variegated skeins when they're in skeins but knit up. Don't tend to like them very much. So I wanted to pick something that was like subtle and delicate. So there are some bits in there, but like it's not mad. And so I actually did buy some mini skeins to go with it for heels, toes and cuffs, but I've blundered a little bit. So I bought these. And I thought, how lovely would that look as a cuff or a heel, and that as the other. And then, because I thought I'd bought these before in my stripy socks I've shared. It is the Boulette by Villaine, which is a French dyer from Lyon. And so these were, again, like I bought some online. I didn't really... So two of the colours I bought online previously I really liked, but the pink one I was less keen on. And so I thought it would be good to pick some out in person. I really should have read the label. I was aware they had two different bases. However, when later that day, and I should have like really acknowledged that thought when it came to me, because I could have gone back and swapped it, and now it's a bit late because I'm back in Birmingham. I thought, those mini balls I bought, I actually quite like, especially this one. The yarn is quite wavy. The sock yarn I bought from them before wasn't wavy. It's not sock yarn. It's 100% merino singles, so absolutely no good for socks whatsoever. But beautiful. So I have my Lichen and Lace merino singles, which I think probably would go with this. So it's possible I could use that to go with the Lichen and Lace. I could hold on to them, and if I go back to London anytime soon, I could swap them again. Or they're really beautiful colours. I could use them for something. Just singles scare me a bit because I don't think they wear very well. So I don't know. But they could be really good in brioche with another colour, maybe. So at the end of the day, it's too many skeins. It's not a big deal. Could just use them for something. And that was all of my acquisitions from Vapes. Not that bad. You know, these are the only ones I actually bought, because the others were just a swap and exchange. So yeah, very lovely. The only other acquisition I have yarn-wise was a gift, but I'm actually going to talk about it in my next episode because it's very Christmassy. So yes. And then other than that, I did go to the Village haberdashery when I was in London, and which is like a fabric shop and a haberdashery, and I did make a very small purchase. I bought this fat quarter because I knew it would go really well with lots of the printed cottons I have already, and would be like good to pair with something, like a project bag or something like that, or a gift. And I bought some cable needles because my cable needles I've got currently are rubbish, don't really enjoy them, and I think the shape of these could be quite good. And yeah, so I thought that'd be quite useful, and I quite like the colours actually, they're a bit vintage retro looking. Yeah, so small thing. And then the last acquisition, and then I'm going to stop talking because I think it's been quite long, is a fabulous one. It's from Katie Greenbean. It's not yarn. It's her lovely new pattern that's just been released, the Fairy Ring cardigan. So her other one, the Beetle Magic, that was a jumper, but I'm steeking it. This is a cardigan, and I probably will knit it as a cardigan because I don't have very many cardigans, and it's also steeked. And it's a really lovely pattern. It's got mushrooms around the yoke, it's colour work, and she released a screen printed ribbon to go with it for the button band. I don't know if I'll use this on the cardigan or not. I might use something else, but if I don't use it for the cardigan, I'll definitely use this on another colourwork cardi at some point because it's really lovely. So yeah, and I think it's gorgeous, and if you flip it upside down there's a children's size as well, so that's really good. So yeah, I have done a little bit of shopping this month. I won't do much more. I do have a few more things to arrive any day really. But I think that's me good to go for quite a while. When I was in Loop, I did pick up by Farmer Daughter's Shepherd, something like that, Daughter of a Shepherd, I can't remember. I picked up some yarn, and I thought it was the Ram Jam, which is like a combination of like different fleeces that don't normally get sold. And it felt incredible, and it said it was £12 a skein. So I picked up 2 skeins, but when I got to the till, she was like, that'll be £100 then please. And I was like, what? I worked it out. I'm sure I hadn't spent £100. And it turned out I'd picked up the wrong yarn. I'd misread the signs, and the yarn I'd picked up was actually like £25 a skein. And it was the Brume by Daughter Farmer something Shepherd, whatever it is. And it's gorgeous, and I haven't stopped thinking about it. I'm not going to buy it right now because that'd be just too indulgent. But I definitely think I want to make another Waiting for Rain shawl in that yarn. They're undyed, and so it was like a dark heathery brown, but it just felt really lovely and soft but rustic. So I think 100% next autumn I am going to get some of that and knit one of these. Or if I have any birthday money in the new year, maybe I'll get it then. But I have quite a lot of yarn to be getting on with, so yeah, I don't know. I'm going to pace myself. I think maybe in December or January I'm going to sort of take stock and reflect on what I have and make some solid plans to use what I have. I will say with all the yarn I bought at the weekend, I did have a purpose for that. I should have said this, I bought it to make a Jessie May tank top or a pair of socks. Like, I have quite a lot of sock yarn, so my intention was to buy sock yarn to make one of her tank tops. But when I saw those as contrast colours, I was like, oh, that'd be fabulous as a pair of socks. But now that I know I can't use that for socks, I probably will use this to make a tank top, because Heather and Hops wears them quite a lot, and I think actually it'd be really nice. So probably that's what it's going to be. So yeah, I think I need to reflect a bit, look at my yarn, make some solid plans. But for now, I'm just going to enjoy the couple of festive knits I have in mind, which I will tell you about in my next episode. And yeah, that's it. So with the end of the autumn mood now being over, with my autumn knits finished pretty much, I am going to put these pumpkins in the oven to roast later to make some soup, and I'm going to start getting into the Christmas spirit and do a few Christmassy crafts and bits and bobs like that. So I'll probably see you again soon. Hopefully I can get this up soon so you can enjoy it before I start recording the next one. And be safe. Things are starting to sound a bit scary again out there, but I hope everyone's doing okay, and chat soon. Thank you. Bye.